Hello, how are you? Let's start with the lecture. We have talked about solid, liquids, and gases, and for example, we have talked about oxygen, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, ammonia. There are many kinds of gases and some of the noble gases. Today, we are going to uh, talk about the uh, identification of gases and what are the tests we can do to identify different kinds of gases. Gases and vapors are liberated or generated during dry heating or by the addition of reagents such as acids or alkalis, provides a clue on anions like carbonates, nitrites, and cation ammonia. What it is trying to say that some of the gases like carbon dioxide, they are produced when an acid reacts with a compound that has a carbonate ion in it. So let's see in detail how are the different gases generated, uh, or the gases that can be formed on heating a solid. So when we heat any kind of carbonates, it could be sodium carbonate, calcium carbonate, carbon dioxide gas is formed, or even like the marble is made up of limestone, that is calcium carbonate. So when if accidentally any acid falls on a marble floor, we can see small bubbles forming on the marble surface. So those small bubbles are basically carbon dioxide gas. So carbon dioxide gas is formed when an acid reacts with the marble or when calcium hydroxide and the limestone when it reacts with water. Um, in that case, carbon dioxide gas is also formed. Oxygen gas is formed from some of the nitrates and certain oxides when we heat them, like not all of the nitrates, some of the nitrates and some of the oxides. Ammonia gas is formed from heating ammonium salts, and reddish brown nitrogen dioxide gas is formed when the nitrates are heated. So these are just some examples. Ammonia gas is used in the production of urea, a fertilizer used in the agriculture industry. Oxygen gas is like we inhale oxygen, and for industrial production, the oxygen gas is filled in some oxygen tanks, and a very big use is in the hospital or the medical industry. Same like that, there are several other gases like sulfur dioxide, hydrogen gas. So we are going to talk about some prominent gases in this lecture. Next slide. Uh, gases that can be formed when reacting a solid with acid. So we have discussed this, that carbon dioxide gas can be formed when acid reacts with some of the carbonates. Also, hydrogen gas can be formed when acids react with certain metals. So hydrogen gas is formed, and sulfur dioxide is formed when acid reacts with sulfides. By sulfides, I mean any compound that contains sulfide, like it may be sodium sulfide or potassium sulfide, calcium sulfide, magnesium sulfide, any salts in which there is a sulfide present. In some later lecture, I will brief you about what sulfides are, what carbonates are, what nitrites are. So let's move on to the next slide. Identification of gases can be done by the following tests. So a number of uh, gases are mentioned in the slide, and we can perform some tests to identify these gases. The first one is ammonia. Ammonia turns the moist red litmus blue. In the previous lecture, we discussed when we were discussing the acid-base reaction, acid and base. We studied that the acids they turn the blue litmus paper into the red, and the bases they turn the red litmus paper into blue. So ammonia gas alone it cannot change the color of the litmus paper, but it will turn the moist. So the condition here is moist. So first you have to like dip the litmus paper in the water, and when the moist litmus paper it is exposed to ammonia, so it will turn the moist red litmus into blue, because when the litmus paper is dipped into the water, so the water on the litmus paper would react with ammonia gas and it would form sodium, it would form a base. uh, that base is ammonium hydroxide. So when ammonia reacts with water or the moist litmus paper, ammonium hydroxide is produced. Ammonium hydroxide is a base or an alkali. So as we had discussed earlier that all of the bases on the alkalis they turn the red litmus papers into the blue. So ammonium hydroxide is basically I like it. It has a hydroxide ion, so hydroxyl or hydroxide ions, and they give the presence of hydroxide ions cause the alkalinity or basicity in the uh, in the in the aqueous solutions. So the second test is hydrogen gas test. To test the hydrogen gas, we if we like a place, or if hydrogen gas is being produced in a test tube and we insert a glowing splint or a glowing match into that test tube, so it will extinguish by the lighted splint with a pop sound. So the hydrogen gas, because it is highly combustible and highly flammable. So when hydrogen gas is produced in any experiment or in any test, it can be tested by the pop sound, because when a glowing splint will be placed in the hydrogen test tube, it will give a pop sound and it will extinguish uh, the lighted splint with pop sound. So the third test is oxygen. Hydrogen is very like environmental friendly fuel, because if it is used if used as energy purpose, like we are burning um, mm, petrol and diesel in our cars, so they produce carbon dioxide gases. So when hydrogen gas is burnt, produces it reacts with oxygen to form water vapors. So in that way, hydrogen is a very environmental friendly fuel. But the major challenge is how we can store the hydrogen gas for to use it as a fuel for our vehicles. So because it is highly flammable, even a very small spark would create a very large explosion. So that is why hydrogen is not used. But if it is used in the later future, it will be a very good option, because it is a very environmental friendly fuel. So hydrogen gas, it will extinguish the lighted splint with a pop sound. So in any experiment, if you insert the lighted match in the test tube of hydrogen, it will like create a pop sound. It would exactly create a, like a pop sound. So third test is oxygen. uh, Oxygen gas is like, for any combustion, oxygen gas is very necessary for burning any fuel, because if we are burning carbon or any, like even the gas or the petrol or the diesel, we use oxygen for the combustion. So if if a or if a glowing splint is inserted into the oxygen, the glow would be like enhanced. It would the fire would be, um, the fire would be increased, or we can say that the flame would get bigger. So oxygen aids in the combustion. So if you want to like increase the flame of any fire, you can blow some air onto it, or if you can blow some oxygen onto it. So in that way, the flame of the fire would be super glowing. So the test for oxygen would be to insert a glowing splint of fire or a match into a test tube of oxygen, or where the oxygen is being produced in the experimental setup. So it would um, enlighten or relight the glowing splint. And the carbon dioxide, it will extinguish the fire, because carbon dioxide gas is used for extinguishing or for um, decreasing the flame. So to test carbon dioxide gas, what we can do is put a glowing splint into the carbon dioxide, and it will be extinguished. So oxygen aids in fire production, and carbon dioxide, it diminishes or it extinguishes fire. So that is why when there is any kind of incident, we try to do not open the doors or the windows, so that the oxygen supply is limited in that room. And in the other case, we use carbon dioxide gas in the fire extinguishers. So the next one is chlorine. Chlorine would bleach the litmus paper. The third and the last one is sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide, SO2, it is a toxic gas. Sulfur dioxide would turn the orange potassium dichromate paper green. So these are some tests in that how we can test these gases in the laboratory. So if we are playing with some chemicals and chemical reaction in the lab, there is a chance that there is some gas being produced. So to observe that gas, that what kind of gas is being produced, we can do uh, one of we can do these tests to identify what kind of gas is being produced. So these are like some most prominent gases, and we can test them by using these techniques. That's it for now. One more thing, there are like the gases are not limited to these 6 to 7 gases. There are several other gases like sulfur trioxide and the noble gases that includes the helium gas and some other gases like fluorine and nitrogen dioxide, or even the nitrogen gas that makes up most of the atmosphere. So even these gases can be tested in the laboratory by using different kind of techniques. But usually in our lab experiments, when we are identifying some chemicals, or when we are identifying some salts, these gases are produced. So for now, only like we should know that we should know the test for the most common or the most occurring or the most gases being produced in the chemical reaction. So see you in the next class.